Hi, Matthew.
I'm Darshell.
And for our group project, we were assigned a dice game and we chose Yahtzee as our dice game. So to start the game right here, we have a start button and we're able to choose between online and local. We're going to demonstrate local right now. And then we're able to roll right here, end our turn. So that's after we either take one roll or take our maximum of three end of the turn to be able to roll again and score a different type of score. And then we have some visual features made by Darshell, which you can explain.
Yeah, so to begin with the change background drop down button, you can change the background of the game to basically whatever you want, just to have the best user experience when playing the game. Um, and then also for the I also coded the roll dice animation so that when the roll button is pressed, it shows you the images of the dice faces, which is moving to kind of simulate a dice roll, and then the code from Matt, whatever number it's chosen, it correlates to the end image of the image box so that you have a visual representation of what you rolled. And then after your turn is over, there's an emote button to basically try to communicate to the second player how you felt about your last turn. That was just a reach feature that we thought would be fun to add.
And I'm going to kind of demonstrate the game actually working. So we have these keep checkboxes to keep any one of the dies. So when we re-roll it, it's going to stay the same value. So I'm going to keep these fours. And I'm going to re-roll the dice. And then I have 2 5s. So I'm going to keep those two. And then only this is going to roll. And this is actually full house. So we're going to press this. And once we press the button, it can't be repressed. This is just like Yahtzee. You can't score the same type of score within a game. And that's going to give us a fixed amount. And we have a total on the bottom of the table right here, which represents what we're going to see later on with more of the scores is just a total of all this in the column in third. So I'm going to go ahead and end my turn. And I'm going to re-roll again. And can demonstrate the sum of the die types. So we're just going to see the sum of the 5s. So we have 3 5s. Whenever a scoring is done, the keep doesn't have to be checked to score. So the scoring can be done on the first roll or the third roll. And now the game has kept track of the fact that it's a new round. So now when we score, we're going to take a 1 score. It's going to record it in this third column right here. After the second round is finished, the total scores, which we had 85 and 70, are summed up and displayed right here in this corner. And the game is now over. So now we're going to demonstrate our partially working online multiplayer. So it supports 2 players. Darshell is going to be playing player 2. I'm going to be playing player 1. I'm going to kind of demonstrate what she's seeing on the other side as soon as my round passes. So we're going to start game. We're going to pick online. Player 1, and she's going to pick player 2. And refresh score is kind of used to update and communicate the information through ThinkSpeak. When I press refresh score, it refreshes the game counter, turn counter inside the game, and also shows me that it's turn. So on her end, if she pressed that, it would be red. Finished my first round on the online game, and I'm going to end my turn. And now I can't re-roll. So it's Darshell's turn. If I refresh my score, it's going to show that it's not my turn, it's hers. So Darshell's going to play on her side, and she's going to show us how her score is recorded in the second column.
Okay, so after we hit refresh score, his button turns red, my button turns green, and that indicates that I can start my roll. And then sixes, and that'll calculate refresh score.
That it's being stored in the second column and that I'm not able to roll until she finishes. And that kind of just continues for the rest of the game. Project. So we have the read, write keys, and channel ID for the thing speak. And then we have initialization for the player die, which is going to be filled by a function that generates 5 random values, 1 through 6, for the dice rolls. And then all the scoring is held here. It's initialized in the beginning of the game. All the columns are also initialized that are going to be fed into the table as the game is being played. And the heart of the game is kind of just a function called 5 die roll, and that's going to create 5 random values, 1 through 6. And then we have some functions regulating the turns, and then we have more initialization for the scoring that's kind of used for the table. So we have the function to update the table. It takes all the scoring values and adds a bonus if the 1s through 6s exceed 63. That's the total of that type of scoring. And then we have some conditionals that just check if the game is local and check what round it is to make sure that the values are updating to the right columns.
Okay, so this is the function to roll dice animation, which is called later in the code when you push the roll button. So it starts off by initializing the dice rolling sound. It uses audio read to read the file. The Y sound contains the audio data. The sample frequency contains the sample rate of the audio file. And then there's just like a directory of the image faces being used in the animation down there. And then over here for the for and if statements, it's just if the checkboxes aren't crossed, then it uses the mod function to basically just alternate between the photos to simulate the rolling of a dice in the image box in the app. And it's just the same code for the rest. And then over here, if app checkbox isn't checked, it's that's basically just to what is it, relate the die result so that it pulls up the correct photo to show, you know, what the die result was for the roll.
So the roll button is declared here. This is a button press function, and this just checks and sets the values of the die if the checkboxes are unchecked, and just make sure that it gets disabled once the third round is reached. And the end turn button kind of just initializes the roll die each round and initializes the checkboxes so they're not carried onto the next round. And the scoring is initialized if 13 turns are taken, which is when the game moves on to the next step. And then we just have functions right here to just set the checkbox values into variables. And then we have the scoring here for the game. So the 1s through the 6s are all the same, but if it's pressed, it just takes the sum of all the player die values and adds them together. And then we have our special scoring right here. So they all use sort die, and they use a for loop to compare any consecutive or matching indices in the sorted die. And that works similarly for all of the special functions for the full house. It checks a couple different iterations or if loops, and something like the Yahtzee will check all the die to make sure they're equivalent, and it assigns a score. And chance is just a sum.
And now this is the function for the emotes drop down button. So it first gets the selected option, which then the image path corresponds the image to the selected option, and then down there there's a function for the image path that is just where all the images are stored. And then later on there's the change background drop down button, and it's essentially the same code as the emotes drop down, except it has a different image, image paths, and it uses a different image box.